Hi everybody, it's Little Prepper Lady here. Today is Monday, it's July 1st, 2019. And I know this story is a couple of days old, but it is still pretty brand new. So what I want to talk about today specifically is climate change and how it's affecting basically everything. So climate change has been something that has been tossed around for years in this type of a community, and anybody that's been paying attention has been seeing, the spraying in the skies and all of that kind of stuff, which Harvard did actually come out. They published a article saying that yes, they are going to start spraying to try to combat climate change. Climate change caused by all the emissions from cars, buses, trucks, tractor trailers, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to just leave that at that because we all know how we feel about that. Climate change is something that they decided they were going to, just say, this is an issue and this is how we're going to solve it. We're going to start spraying the skies with all of these heavy chemicals and metals, and not to really care about how it's going to affect anything as far as weather-wise goes, or as far as animal life, plant life, and human life, because why would they care about that stuff? They just want to try to keep the planet cooler by, attempting to block out the sun when it's, during its hottest. So I don't know about anybody else, but I look at the sky all the time, and when the sun starts to come out, they're out there spraying like crazy, supposedly to, keep the planet cool. So, couple of things that have happened over the past couple of days. We all know about the heat wave that is impacting Europe. It's starting to subside a little bit now. Subside, not subside. Subside. It's been a long day. I've been out in the sun and I'm a little tired. But it is starting to subside a little bit, thankfully for them, because climates like that are not used to excessive heat indexes like what they've seen in the triple digits, especially in large cities. If you're thinking about as far as a heat is concerned in a large city, you have all of those buildings, you have the excessive amounts of traffic, which are both trapping and putting off heat. So it's only going to get hotter in those areas, and those buildings are not equipped to withstand the heat indexes that they've been seeing. They are insulated for winter purposes because they do have, severe winters and very cold temperatures in Europe during the winter months. So that's essentially, what they built the buildings for, was to protect against that kind of stuff and keep it insulated and keep the heat in. But when they did that, they were not thinking that temperatures would get that high, because the climate hasn't been like that, since the buildings have been built, whether was 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Those were not an issue that they had to worry about. So now with all of this climate change and all of the spraying that they're doing, it's causing erratic weather throughout the entire country and the entire world, and it's affecting all of that kind of stuff. And not only is it having a negative impact on us and our health and our well-being, but on animals, plants, and everything else as well. Obviously, everybody knows when it gets super hot out, the elderly and the children are more susceptible to suffering from things like heat stroke, heat exhaustion, things like that, dehydration. But once the temperatures reach that certain level, everybody's at risk for it, especially when you have the high humidity factored into it, which is what they've been experiencing, which is extremely uncommon for over there. It's just causing all sorts of issues. And not only have they been seeing issues with the heat, but we have as well in this country. So just recently, there were a couple articles that were published in Northern California. They are finding mussel death. So tens of thousands of mussels are washing up on the shores, and they're dead. They're scorching from the heat, because after the heat reaches about 90 degrees, they start to have an issue surviving, and they are finding, tens of thousands of these mussels dead on the beach in that area. Let me see here. In South Dakota, it looks like there's a bunch of roads that have begun to buckle under the heat. with the heat index, the temperatures were rising up to about 107 there. Those are temperatures that are common in areas that are desert. So Nevada, Arizona, places like that are used to having heat like that. Their infrastructure is built in order to withstand that heat. But places like South Dakota, again, just like over in Europe, the infrastructure is not built to handle that because it's not something that they've never had to deal with in the past. But because of all of these changes that they're making to try to keep the planet cool for us, supposedly, now it's causing an issue. So not only are we having issues as far as health is concerned, but we're having safety issues as well with the buildings that we're in, and with, the electricity grid. When you have high temperatures, everybody's running an air conditioning unit if they can afford it, and then you have that whole aspect of it where a lot of people can't afford their electricity bill as it is, and they can't afford an air conditioner, and they haven't needed an air conditioner because it's never been that hot to have to need one. Now they have to get them, if you're even lucky enough to be able to go to the store and find one, because they're not all sold out. Then you have to pay that extra amount to the electricity company. So this all seems to be like a huge, snowball effect, essentially, where all of this stuff that they're doing ends up just making more money for them in the long run. It's making more money for the hospitals. It's making more money for doctors, pharmacies, because all of these people are getting sick and having issues heat-related wise. It's making more money for the electricity company. It's making more money for the huge, businesses like Walmart and Costco and things like that, selling air conditioners, Home Depots, Lowe's, all of those places. It just has a snowball effect no matter what happens. It's all about money and, what's going to make the greatest amount of money. That's my opinion. Like I always say, you guys can have your own opinion, but I feel, they knew that this was going to happen. They knew screwing with the weather and messing with the atmosphere was going to have an impact. It was going to change weather patterns. It was either going to, make the temperatures drop to way below what is normal, which is what we're experiencing here in the Northeast. It just started getting nice here. Normally this time of year, you have weeks on end where it's in the 80s and 90s because it's summer. Summer starts here towards the end of May, and it goes until about the beginning of September. We have a few short months of nice summer, and normally it starts to get, nice and warm. I mean, in May and the beginning of June, you see 70s, and then by the end of June, it's in the 80s. It stays around there, and then July and August are usually, upper 80s, 90s, hot. Today, it reached about 82 degrees, my car said, at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So it's not normal here. It's not as hot as it normally is. And other places in the country, other places in the world are getting the heat that we're normally used to. And literally, I just checked the weather. For the next 10 days, it's supposed to be storms and raining. That's not normal. The past couple of years, it has been nothing but wet, cold summers. That's not normal. I remember when I was a kid, from the beginning of June all the way until we went to school, it was hot, it was sunny. You had a few thunderstorms and rainy days here and there, but nothing like what we've been seeing because they're manipulating the weather, they're screwing with everything, and they're not realizing, well, they probably do realize, but the impact of it is huge, on a huge scale, for every single living being, whether that be a person, an animal, or a plant on this planet, is suffering from what they're doing to us. And they're doing it, and they're doing it for a reason. LA did a cool thing. They started putting a white coating on the roads to try to help with the heat, and it actually does help. So that may be something that a lot of other cities should look into. Putting this white coating, I don't know how expensive it is or how extensive it would have to be, but on the blacktops, it cools it between 10 and 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So that would be something, that would be good to do to try to help that as far as larger cities are concerned. Things like San Francisco, LA, Dallas, New York City, all those kind of things. If we're able to try to find a way, to make that a possibility to try to keep things cooler, keeping parks open longer, water parks, opening up fire hydrants. I know they do that a lot around here when it gets super, super hot, because I know a lot of people can't afford air conditioning and they have kids and they want to make sure that they stay cool and hydrated. So those are all kind of things that we can do to help, but we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place if it wasn't for them doing what they're doing. But unfortunately, what are we going to do to stop it? I don't know. I don't know what we can do to stop it. I wish there was a way that we could stop it, but we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to rise up. We're going to have to be strong, and we're going to have to pull together and try to figure out ways that we can combat the issues that are being thrown at us head on, and try to survive the best that we can, because essentially extinction of the human race is an ultimate goal, unfortunately. So, we have to fight back against that and let them know that we're not going to go down without a fight. On a positive note, the Midwest is starting to see some heat, which should help to dry up a lot of the water that's still out there. So that's a positive thing. But beyond that point, if it extends beyond, the water being, evaporated into the atmosphere and things like that, and then it starts just cooking the soil underneath, then you have a whole nother issue on top of it. So I just kind of wanted to touch on this. I want to get your guys' feedback as far as climate change is concerned and what's going on with all these heat waves, random all over the place in areas that are not used to seeing this kind of heat. As always, guys, always remember everything does happen for a reason. Whether you're having a good day or a bad day, you're in a good situation or a bad situation, just stick with it. You're on that journey for a reason. Everything's going to be okay. Also, always remember, everything does happen for a reason. Forget about the past. Sorry, it's been a long day. Forget about the past. Be thinking about the future while be living in the now. Be living, be loving, be laughing your life right now, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. We all could not be here tomorrow, so it's important that we're living our lives right now while we're staying focused on the future. That's all I've got for you guys today, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.